Hello everybody, we're going to be talking about the Forbes list for NHL team values, and we won't be going through every team today, but kind of talking about some surprise things and stuff I wanted to talk about from this. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new to hockey, if you're new to the channel, whatever the case may be. I'd love to have you here along the way, and let's get into it. So the NHL, of course, has always been releasing this, at least since I've been a kid. Forbes, I guess I should say, has been releasing it, and for the 8th consecutive season, the New York Rangers actually come out on top for the most valuable NHL franchise, and that is now an estimation of them being worth $2.2 billion. That is a 10% increase since last season. And then the Toronto Maple Leafs are the only other team worth $2 billion or more. They are actually worth $2 billion exactly. I say exactly because I'm sure that it's not exactly. And that's an 11% change from last year. So you have two original six teams that are, of course, in that $2 billion range. And they are clearly some of those markets that do the best. Rangers fans are basically everywhere. Maple Leafs fans are everywhere as well. Big city teams, original six teams, teams that have had a lot of success at different periods of time, makes a lot of sense. And actually, what's funny is out of the top five, all of them are original six clubs. You have the Montreal Canadiens listed at third. They will definitely be a club that I feel like is worth $2 billion next year, as they are worth $1.85 billion this season, a 16% change. Chicago Blackhawks, $1.5 billion, excuse me. That's a 7% change. And then the Boston Bruins, which was worth $1.4 billion, an 8% change. So rounding out the top 10, you have the Los Angeles Kings, the Edmonton Oilers, Philadelphia Flyers, and I totally missed a screenshot. Oh, the Washington Capitals and Seattle Kraken. Outside of the top five, there's not really a ton of surprises here. You know, I said last year, I think I did a video over this, the Detroit Red Wings failed to crack into the top 10. They were actually 11th, if I'm not mistaken, but they are the only original six club that is not inside the top 10, and they, of course, are not in the top six, I guess you should say. So out of the original six, 5 out of the 6 are in the top 5. And then you have the Red Wings, which, you know, smaller city. I know Detroit's really gone through some hard times over the years. And when I think of bigger cities, I really don't think of Detroit. I know back in the day they really had a big prime heyday. But you think of Montreal, Toronto, Chicago, New York. Those are all really big cities. Boston's not that big, I don't think. But out of those 5, 4 of them really do make sense. And the Bruins are a club that's had a lot of success, you know, in the 70s. Then before that, they had success really for what feels like 2 decades at this point in terms of being a consistently good team. But yeah, you know, looking at this, I think inside the top 10, I am a little surprised that the Flyers, despite all the problems that they've had, are a top 10 valued team. They are worth $1.25 billion. But inside that top 10, they are a club that really didn't gain a lot in terms of one-year change. They're actually at 4%, which was the least inside the top 10 in terms of value gained. And I'm not completely surprised there. I feel like Philly itself is a city that, I don't know, it's a city that I don't really think of as a big city. I'm sure it is a huge city. I don't know the population, but I also think it's not a destination city for a lot of people. They're thinking Miami, LA, New York, stuff like that. But for them, good for them. And of course, they are an older team. They're one of the 6 expansion teams in 1967. And the Flyers are a club that has had some very good highs and also some very low lows. And they are a club that I feel like in the TV, movie production, stuff like that, you see a lot of people that slip their stuff in, their logo, their fandom into stuff like that, so that might be explained there. Capitals, they are in 9th, they are a 29% growth. How much is that tied to Ovi? I don't know. How much is that tied to just really the growth that the team has experienced over the years? I'm going to say a lot of it's Ovi. I don't know the underlying numbers here, but it is interesting. And then the Kraken being top 10, you know, they are a club that has a decently good arena from what I've heard. They've got good colors. They're a new team. Seattle is a bustling city right now. Everybody wants to be there, and it is interesting for them. As for the bottom 5, I don't think a lot's changed here. It might actually be the exact same teams from last year. You have the Carolina Hurricanes at 28th, Columbus Blue Jackets at 29th, Buffalo Sabres at 30th, Florida Panthers at 31st, and Arizona Coyotes at dead last at 32nd. I think really out of this list, I'm really just thinking Buffalo's really the surprise here. I know Buffalo, again, is not a New York by any means. They're in New York, but the state, not the city. Outside of that, the Panthers, I really do hate that they are valued as low as this, considering that they are so close to Miami. They're in, what is it, Sunview or whatever it's called, something like that, and I hate to see them ranked 31st. But it is what it is. They are better though, and they actually experienced 22% growth compared to last year. Unless it says 1 year change. I'm expecting that to be growth. Maybe it's not, but yeah, for the Panthers, they are worth over $500 million. And of course, looking at this, you only see the Arizona Coyotes as the only team in the league right now that is worth less than $500 million. And then if they were to get a new stadium, I would imagine that would shoot up. I don't think that they would crack like the top 16 unless this was a beautiful, beautiful stadium. But in general, you look at this roster, not this roster, excuse me, but this list, and you think, yeah, this kind of makes sense for the bottom 5. Carolina, unless they're doing well, I feel like it's not a huge, huge hockey market. Columbus, that is a bigger city than a lot of people think. But again, I think a lot of fans are really focused on Ohio State for their football, stuff like that. The Sabres, it's a smaller city. And then the Panthers, of course, they just have a lot of people from Florida that move in that are a little bit older, people that get destination jobs, stuff like that. And then the Coyotes, I mean, they've been the Coyotes. They've struggled a lot over the years. But yeah, that's just kind of some takeaways from the Forbes list. I know I'm rambling, I know I'm not making sense, but I wanted to talk about it. So, are there any surprises here for you? You can also look up the list online. There's plenty of articles about it, and then there is a list for that as well. Let me know, are there any things that surprised you down below in the comments? Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night, and go of hockey, alright. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.